The Untouchables. Who were they and why they became untouchables? By Babasaheb Ambedkar. Part 4, Chapter 10. Beef eating as the root of untouchability. We now take up test number 10 referred to in the circular issued by the Census Commissioner and to which reference has already been made in the previous chapter. The test refers to beef eating. The census returns show that the meat of the dead cow forms the chief item of food consumed by communities which are generally classified as untouchable. No Hindu community, however low, will touch cow's flesh. On the other hand, there is no community which is really an untouchable community which has not something to do with the dead cow. Some eat her flesh, some remove the skin, some manufacture articles out of her skin and bones. From the survey of the Census Commissioner, it is well established that untouchables eat beef. The question, however, is has beef eating any relation to the origin of untouchability? Or is it merely an incident in the economic life of the untouchables? Can we say that the broken men came to be treated as untouchables because they ate beef? There need be no hesitation in returning an affirmative answer to the question. No other answer is consistent with the facts as we know them. In the first place, we have the fact that the untouchables or the main communities which compose them eat the dead cow, and those who eat the dead cow are tainted with untouchability and no others. The correlation between untouchability and the use of the dead cow is so great and so close that the thesis that it is the root of untouchability seems to be incontrovertible. In the second place, if there is anything that separates the untouchables from the Hindus, it is beef eating. Even a superficial view of the food taboos of the Hindus will show that there are two taboos regarding food which serve as dividing lines. There is one taboo against meat eating. It divides Hindus into vegetarians and flesh eaters. There is another taboo which is against beef eating. It divides Hindus into those who eat cow's flesh and those who do not. From the point of view of untouchability, the first dividing line is of no importance, but the second is, for it completely marks off the touchables from the untouchables. The touchables, whether they are vegetarians or flesh eaters, are united in their objection to eat cow's flesh. As against them stand the untouchables who eat cow's flesh without compunction and as a matter of course and habit. In this context, it is not far fetched to suggest that those who have a nausea against beef eating should treat those who eat beef as untouchables. There is really no necessity to enter upon any speculation as to whether beef eating was or was not the principal reason for the rise of untouchability. This new theory receives support from the Hindu Shastras. The Veda Vyasa Smriti contains the following words, which specifies the communities which are included in the category of Antyajas and reasons why they were so included. 12:13. The Charmakas, cobblers, the Bhatta, soldier, the Bhilla and Rajaka, washerman, the Puskara and Nata, actor, the Vrata, Meda and Chandala, Dasa, Swapaka and Kolika. These are known as Antyajas as well as others who eat cow's flesh. Generally speaking, the Smritikars never care to explain the why and the how of their dogmas. But this case is an exception, for in this case, Vedavyas does explain the cause of untouchability. The clause, as well as others who eat cow's flesh, is very important. It shows that the Smritikars knew that the origin of untouchability is to be found in the eating of beef. The dictum of Vedavyas must close the argument. It comes, so as to say, straight from the horse's mouth, and what is important is that it is also rational, for it accords with facts as we know them. The new approach in the search for the origin of untouchability has brought to the surface two sources of the origin. One is the general atmosphere of scorn and contempt spread by the Brahmins against those who were Buddhists, and the second is the habit of beef eating kept on by the broken men. As has been said, the first circumstance could not be sufficient to account for stigma of untouchability attaching itself to the broken men. For the scorn and contempt for Buddhists spread by the Brahmins was too general and affected all Buddhists and not merely the broken men. The reason why broken men only became untouchables was because, in addition to being Buddhists, they retained their habit of beef eating, which gave additional ground for offense to the Brahmins to carry their newfound love and reverence to the cow to its logical conclusion. We may therefore conclude that the broken men were exposed to scorn and contempt on the ground that they were Buddhists. The main cause of their untouchability was beef eating. The theory of beef eating as the cause of untouchability also gives rise to many questions. Critics are sure to ask, what is the cause of the nausea opposed to beef eating? If not, why did they develop which the Hindus have? Were the Hindus always opposed to this practice? If not, why did they develop it? Were the untouchables given to beef eating from the very start? Why did they not give up beef eating when it was abandoned by the Hindus? Were the untouchables always untouchables? If there was a time when the untouchables were not untouchables, even though they ate beef, why should beef eating give rise to untouchability at a later stage? If the Hindus were eating beef, why did they give it up? If untouchability is a reflex of the nausea of the Hindus against beef eating, how long after the Hindus had given up beef eating did untouchability come into being? These questions must be answered. Without an answer to these questions, the theory will remain under the cloud. It will be considered as plausible, but may not be accepted as conclusive. Having put forth the theory, I am bound to answer these questions. I have proposed to take up the following heads. 1. Did the Hindus never eat beef? 2. What led the Hindus to give up eating beef? 3. What led the Brahmins to become vegetarians? 4. Why did beef eating give rise to untouchability? And 5. When was untouchability born? The end.